Get ready, Staten Island.
The Ferry Hawks are back at SIUH Community Park July 7th to the 12th for a 6-game series against the High Point Rockers. Tonight, first pitch is at 6:30. It's Thirsty Thursday with $5 Bud and Bud Light drafts. Friday, July 10th, first pitch is at 7 p.m. May the Force be with you on Star Wars Night with post-game kids glow around the bases with special lightsaber training packs.
Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats.
Let's talk some money and politics with Liz Peek, Fox News contributor, and Steve Moore, Unleash Prosperity Hotline, and WABC host of More Money, which pops up right after this show on most of these same radio stations. Liz Peek, Texas Stock Exchange, and capital and people are moving to Texas because New York is taxing everything that moves. And we have this fabulous anti-Semitic socialist mayor, Mondami, and his crowd. I mean, really, this is a direct challenge to New York's, hegemony for finance, capitalism, stock exchangeism, you name it. I mean, this could be a killer blow.
It's another shot across the bow for sure, Larry. And what caught my attention in reading that article this morning is the people behind it include BlackRock and Goldman, Charles Schwab. I mean, these are significant names. Schwab, of course, already is in Texas. Also, the fact that Texas is now home to more corporate headquarters than any other state. I mean, they have really made tremendous progress. I'm also stunned that this brainchild of Governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, I think is only 3 years in the making, and wow, now they're launched. I mean, it's pretty, and isn't that just a tremendous sort of metaphor for one of the huge advantages of being in Texas? You're not covered with regulations. You don't have enormous bogged down process to get anything done. They wanted to do it, and now it's up and running. They have no companies listed, but they certainly are making a very big push with, among other people, an ex-New York Stock Exchange official to go out and line up companies to list on the exchange. But they can trade anything, and my guess is this is going to be a very serious challenge to New York Stock Exchange in a pretty short period of time.
Steve Moore, New York will greet this probably by raising taxes even more.
Liz has it exactly right. What a black eye this is to Manhattan and Wall Street and the craziness that's gone on. And what once was, and for the last 200 years, Wall Street has been the financial capital of the world. And that status is very much in danger. By the way, there's something else going on in California that's sort of parallel to this, which is Hollywood is no longer the entertainment capital of the world because it's, Arthur Laffer taught us that, money will flow to where it's most kindly treated. Mm-hmm. And so what a disaster for you. Here's the thing. If you're the financial capital of the world, why would you have the highest tax on capital?
That's a good question.
Good point.
And you have all these states. We talked about this on TV yesterday. You two are great, by the by. But all these states talk about, they want to jack up taxes on the inheritance tax, or as we call it, the death tax. Now, isn't that a wonderful idea? That's just guaranteed to drive people away from those states.
My fellow Americans, if you think you know politics, think again. I'm Michael Cohen, and every week on When You Know, we're pulling back the curtain on power, politics, media, and the people making headlines. On my new WABC radio show, you'll hear conversations from names that you know. People like Jerry Falwell Jr., Anthony Scaramucci, Alan Dershowitz, and many, many more. Maybe, just maybe, we'll even hear from the president. No scripts, no spin, just real conversations with people who were in the room where it happened. And trust me, we've got some very big surprises coming. Look, I've spent years at the center of politics, controversy, and power. I know the players, I know the stories, and now I'm bringing you inside. When You Know, Sundays at 5 p.m. on WABC Radio. And When You Know, Unleashed, wherever you get your podcasts. Because with me, you never know who's going to show up.
Now, who wants to do that?
California,
yeah.
Others, but they're not alone. Other states, and incidentally, a bunch of Democrats. Who's the whatsy from Maryland? Used to run the
Wes Moore, and he's considered real front runner for the Democratic nomination.
Yeah, they want to, and in the Senate they want to raise the death tax, the inheritance tax. I mean, this is crazy. Keep taxing capital, and you'll have no capital.
Yeah, and Larry, I can absolutely guarantee you that I have so many friends who have moved to Florida. The number one thing that they talk about vis-a-vis taxes is the inheritance tax.
Mm-hmm.
That is the one thing that they cannot abide, the idea that they've worked all their lives to accumulate some wealth and that the government's going to step in when they die and not allow them to leave it to their heirs.
So, Steve, I think, the GOP's got to hop on there. Now, we've been talking, let's talk about the capital gains indexing and raising the exemption for the sale of a home. But, in general, there has to be, Republicans have to draw a very clear red line, all right, between the Democrats' high taxes, and the Republicans' low tax. Okay, I'm with the president on the voting, the ID voting, citizenship, and so forth. But he's got, we spend too much, we tax too much. Democrats want to, and that's an affordability issue too. Taxes are an affordability issue. Democrats wanted a $5 trillion tax hike last year. We did manage to stop that and lower taxes across the board. That's good. But, what have you done for me lately, Steve? I think the GOP, and they should start with this reconciliation 3.0 and get the capital gains tax reform in there.
Yeah, I mean, even my dog doesn't like high capital gains taxes.
Right.
So look, if you can look in the states, there are, I think, about 20 states that have no inheritance tax. So why would you, if you're a multimillionaire or billionaire, why would you die in a state that's going to take as much as 15% of your estate, as Liz said, your lifetime savings? And incidentally, the countries that really used to have very high estate taxes were a lot of the European countries, and Europe usually doesn't get it right, but they finally figured it out. The high estate taxes and inheritance taxes were having a very negative effect on the capital coming into their country. So the evidence is crystal clear on this. Our friend Steve Forbes has always said this best, no taxation without respiration. Yeah. And I love that line.
Yes, that's a good line.
That is good.
And Liz, are you going to be the one? Somebody has to tutor J.D. Vance on economic policy. Steve and I, that's too obvious. I think I want to send you in.
Yeah.
I think that J.D. Vance from day one has had sort of a populist bent to his campaigning and to his thinking. And so it is a departure for sure for what I would describe as the Trump economic policy. And I don't think it's very wholesome or very healthy for economic policy if we indeed, if he is the candidate, he's going to be running on some pretty strange ideas and not very helpful ideas. So I think you guys got to circle the wagons here.
Right.
And it's not like one size fits all, but, in terms of just the sort of basic capitalist playbook, he has to kind of agree to that. And from what I see, he's a bit wobbly. So
his interview, Daily Wire podcast, just to review the bidding, he came out against Milton Friedman. He came out against Margaret Thatcher. He also came out against meritocracy. Something word salady about making money just for the sake of making money. I mean, this stuff is a repudiation of Reagan, but it's also a repudiation of Trump. I mean, Trump is not an ideologue. That's true. But Trump knows as a businessman what works and what doesn't work. Therefore, he's had two large tax cuts in his 2 terms. All right? And I know there's some imperfect things in his policies, but that's crucial. And Trump has always believed in rewarding success, not punishing it. So JD seems to be on the other side of that stuff, Steve.
Yeah, I was disturbed by a lot. You and I knew Milton Friedman, and he was an amazing champion of freedom and free enterprise, probably the most important voice the last 100 years since Adam Smith championing, the free enterprise system. And so it's bizarre actually that JD would actually go after him and say we've moved beyond Milton Friedman. But I wanted to make one other point about the capital gains tax issue, because I think that you've reported, I think you're right. This is a live wire issue. You've got the Speaker of the House who wants to do this. I think Trump is very open-minded to it. And if the Republicans advance this, what I think they should really do is advance on the idea of tax fairness. If you just go down the average person in the street and you say, do you think it's fair to tax somebody on the inflated value of their home because of inflation? I bet 90% would say, no, that doesn't sound like a very good tax policy. So I think they should really say this is good for the economy and it's good for tax fairness. We should never reward government for inflating everything.
So,
well, and that has really happened. I mean, home prices are up like 50% since 2020. Some of it is without a doubt the surge of people coming into the country illegally. But what you have is not just, I mean, that increase in price should really elicit a tremendous amount of increased supply, and that has not happened, I think, largely because of regulatory barriers in states like California, where they just make it absolutely impossible to build. But I think you can argue that if that price were having the normal impact on it should be having the normal impact on supply, but it isn't, partly because of this capital gains thing where they're not adjusting for the time passing and the fact that people have had this huge increase in the price of their homes. People can't afford houses. So you either have to bring the price down or increase the supply, possibly both. But the bill that just got passed, I think is going to be very disappointing in terms of the impact it has.
It's not just, by the way, Liz, you're right that people. The other thing is people can't afford to sell their home because they'd have to pay this gigantic. Yeah, right. So,
that's right.
We looked. Half of the appreciation of the home that we have is just inflation. So we literally, Larry, cannot afford to move.
So since 1997. Which was the last time the exclusion for cap gains sales on home.
Yeah, right.
Inflation is up 107%.
So they should double it. They should double the exemption.
That's correct. That is exactly right. We should go from for married filing jointly is 500,000 should be $1 million. Should be $1 million bucks. And then we should index for inflation on everything. Not just homes, everything, farms, ranches, stocks, you name it.
For sure.
I mean, look, that's fair. Why should we pay a tax on inflation? Joe Biden being the most recent, we had 21% rise cumulatively in the CPI under Biden. Okay, but we've had
the guy who first started this movement was Ronald Reagan. Yes. He was the one who indexed the
income tax. Yes, that is correct. That is correct. So why not? I mean, it should be a major issue, and it would qualify. Democrats could any time you cut a tax, Democrats say it's just for rich people, which is fine. Some of my best friends are rich, but the point is, it actually is going to help since it's the middle class that pays. They are the ones that would benefit from this. And they would also benefit on the housing side. Because if you buy a couple $100,000 house 40 years ago, holy cow, you're paying massive capital gains, and you can't afford to move out. So there's a lockup effect, right? It's a freezing effect on the whole market.
So I'm wondering whether in all the discussion about the housing bill, this even was raised, because it just seems like such an obvious fix to an obvious problem, which is that people are stuck. And we know this is true. People are simply not selling their homes. It's
an Elizabeth Warren bill.
Yeah, no, that's
honestly, it is. Because look at what she says about it on Twitter. What she's so excited about is that they're getting private equity out of the housing business. Great. Another source of capital being removed from building homes for America.
By the way,
so stupid.
J.D. Vance in that interview said she's his favorite Democrat.
He what?
She said Elizabeth Warren's his favorite Democrat.
Oh, my God.
I mean, you guys are thinking this is new. I think if you go back and look at J.D. years ago, this is kind of his pitch.
Well, he wanted to raise. He very briefly talked about raising the top income tax rate for the one big beautiful bill. Remember our friend Steve Bannon, who is a personal friend of mine. I love the guy, but he's a whack job on. He's just
taxes.
Yeah, you and I had this out with him in the first term, but JD flirted with a higher top rate. The top rate should be down. Small businesses pay the top rate. Reagan left it at 28%. That should be the goal. In fact, Dougie Holtz-Eakin is terrific. He has let's broaden the base and lower the rates on taxes. Why have Republicans stopped doing that, Steve? We don't even talk about it anymore.
Yeah, if you started taxing universities and hospitals and things like that, you could widen the tax base. You could lower the rates. Incidentally, since Trump cut the rates back in, what year was that, 2017, tax payments by the rich are up.
Up. Of course they are. And Newt makes the point, I don't know, they went from $60 billion in cap gains revenues when he cut it in 1996. Yeah, and I think actually, see, I'm going to look at it. I wrote it in one of my columns. I think it's $200 billion because they were going to cut. They were balancing the budget. Remember, Greenspan was going up to Capitol Hill, and he was talking about what we're going to have to figure out ways to stop this horrible idea of no deficits and no federal borrowing. Remember that?
Yep.
Well, boy, there's a terrible problem. No borrowing. Holy cow. Let's take a break. Liz Peek, Fox News contributor. Steve Moore, Unleash Prosperity. More money coming up right after this show. Most of these same radio stations. I'm Kudlow. We'll be right back. And we're talking money and politics. Liz Peek and Steve Moore. So let's see. Liz, great column by Kim Strassel, the Journal. Graham Plattner in Maine, who's finally stepped down, is going to be replaced by... Wait for it. Wait a minute. Another Graham Plattner. That's what the progressives want.
Without the tattoo.
Yeah, less the tattoo. And then Karl Rove's writing in the Journal, Socialists spell trouble for Democrats. So, Liz, things are looking up for the GOP in spite of themselves.
Well, I must say, I thought there was an interesting column in the Post from a former DSA longtime member who has left that organization because basically he claims it was taken over by communists. And I think if you look at the money that is backing a lot of these campaigns, it is really worrisome. And it really is from China and other groups that really want to destroy America. But I think you can't be complacent about this DSA thing. The voters are indifferent. I mean, we knew a lot about Graham Plattner before he stepped down, including the Nazi tattoo and the lies about the Nazi tattoo, et cetera. And yet voters were completely unmoved by that. They may well rally around this guy. I don't really know what they hope to achieve. They keep talking about very grandiose objectives by embracing communism, which is really what these guys are now talking about. But it's alarming to me. And the guy in the Post was saying, watch out, because just as the DSA was taken over not by leftists, but by communists, the same thing, the Democrats have got to rally to stop this. And I don't really see them doing that.
Well, I think, Steve, Trump laid the groundwork. He gave 3 very good July 4th speeches. He did the Ralph Reed Faith and Freedom, and then he did the Mount Rushmore, and then he did the National Mall on July 4th. Part of it, half of it, maybe more than half, on America's greatness, past, present, and future. But he blasted off on, godless communism and so forth. That's the GOP talking points. They need to highlight. I mean, they're going to spend a lot of money quoting these crazy people. Chevalier here in New York, Mondami, Graham Plattner, whoever the next Graham Plattner is, the one, what is it, El Sayed in Michigan? I mean, God bless them. They're giving the Republicans their ads and their talking points. The GOP is going to win. This changes everything. I know they're winning. I mean, Karl Rove's point is important. They're winning seats in blue districts, navy blue district, dark blue districts. They're not winning swing voter districts.
I think the surprising thing about this, and by the way, I think, Liz, this is a very, very, very dangerous trend. Because they could win. If something happened to the GOP, they could. AOC could be plausibly our next president.
Stop. Stop it.
I do think she's going to be the nominee. I do. I think AOC will win it. I do. Okay, I'll make a bet with you, Larry. By the way, you and I had a great piece in the New York Post this week on the next 250 about how America can, and I would refer people to that. But all we need to do is be free and have free enterprise.
That's freedom and free enterprise. Freedom and free enterprise.
So complicated.
All the things J.D. Vance opposes. No, that's not exactly true. But who knows? You two are great. Liz Peek, thank you. Steve Moore, thank you. Folks,
Thank you.
I'm Kudlow.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.